Karen, this most recent election in the United States seems to have brought home the reality of polarization in the United States, and that in some ways there are really two Americas. There's the America that lives on the coasts, and there's the America that really is in between, and that they have very different attitudes, as we saw expressed during the presidential race. I wonder, as you think about that, what advice do you have, and how should businesses and other organizations approach their efforts to communicate with, speak to those different Americas in a way that works for them?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Don. And I think one of the things that businesses and organizations have to think about today is what audiences they are communicating with, and which audiences is it that they want to communicate with. Typically, many of the clients that I work with have in the past thought about communicating with opinion leaders on the coast, people who drive public opinion. Today, we're seeing a little different, that sometimes around the country, people who may be somewhat silent. In the past, we've heard about a silent majority in American politics. This year, they weren't so silent. People rose up, they wanted change, and they demanded change. And so I think it's important for businesses and organizations to probably broaden the range and think about what audiences are they listening to, what audiences do they care about. Another thing that I think people have to think about in the aftermath of this election is that a lot of people in the country are hurting. They're concerned about their economic opportunity. They're concerned, I like to say that elections rest on a sort of three-legged stool. And all three of those legs, for many people, it feels like they were kicked out from under them. So one of the legs is national security. Do we feel secure? And I think in the aftermath of 9/11, many people, and the rise of ISIS, many people fundamentally question what was always sort of unquestioned, that our oceans protected us, and they don't feel as secure. Clearly, since the financial collapse of the fall of 2008, many people don't feel economically very secure. And I think that, we as Republicans are strong advocates of free trade, but we also have to recognize that free trade has cost economic opportunities for many people across the country, and they're deeply worried about that. And people feel that they need better skills to keep up with the demands of today's employers. And I know employers, many of our clients, are worried about education and skills for their workforce. And so that's a really important issue for businesses across the country. I think it's also a really troubling issue for the workforce and people across the country. And the third leg of that stool is a sort of cultural, social leg of the stool. And I think many people are uncertain about that. There are a lot of changes in the country, Supreme Court decisions that have sort of changed things people have thought were the status quo. And so I think businesses have to recognize that the people who work for them, the people who make a difference, who buy their products, who consume their goods, are in a state of anxiety and they want change. And so I think it's important for businesses to think about that and to try to be responsive to that as they deal with their customers and consumers.